Checking in once again with the State Representative Jackie Chan of Quincy for a chat about the COVID-19 pandemic and other matters too. Jackie, how are you? Good to see you.
Good to see you. Good morning. It's 11:30 still, so I can say good morning.
Absolutely. Here we
And
are on
it's
Cinco de Mayo.
I know Cinco de Mayo. I got a text from my colleague Trom went up in Andover saying it's sad when you can't get your Corona on.
I'm good. Glad he's keeping his sense of humor. It's really important for sure.
It's a very strange time, and it's hard to make jokes about Corona, but there is the beer. And
Absolutely. I think they're going to be selling out of limes probably at the stores.
yeah,
How are you
so
and your family holding up?
well, we're exhausted. I think we have the same feelings of many of my neighbors, which are social distance talking, and it's not just they just locked in, but also the challenges associated with shopping, planning your groceries, obviously keeping up the news and the governor's press conference on television, and just trying to focus on getting work done. And I was talking to somebody the other day. My schedule is not normal, as many of you may know. I mean, there's a lot of meetings at the State House, meetings outside the State House, trying to respond to constituents, then going to meetings at night and events, and obviously, coming to see you at QATV as often as possible, you and Mark. So, that's very non-consistent schedule has been disrupted by a different kind of non-consistent schedule. And, a lot of people use home as a respite from work. And I do work from home, but not this much work from home. So it's been, almost 8 weeks now at this point, depending on when people started to not leave the home. So, we're trying. We're doing our best. This weekend was nice, at least, if nothing
Yes.
else.
Yeah, it was gorgeous. Absolutely. What did you think about that big protest outside the State House, Jackie?
Yeah, I saw that on HDH. Was it HDH or WBZ? I think it was HDH. I think it was a drone that went up. I was watching the video of it, and this is obviously very troubling. We've been advising to the social distance. They're very close together. There's hundreds of people. They're not wearing any kind of mask or other type of protection. And obviously, I support the right of everybody to express their opinion. And if they want to protest, that's fine. But clearly, they either don't believe this is real or do not believe themselves at risk. Given the asymptomatic nature of COVID-19, has proven not to show symptoms. I have a friend whose son has caught it. No symptoms, no fever, no respiratory problems. Only got caught because of the rashes. The COVID toes is what's been called, but it's really rashes on your arms and legs as a result of receiving the virus. So, immune system's working in overdrive and has created a lot of histamines or something, I guess, along those lines. It looks like an allergy reaction when I saw the pictures. So, just because you're feeling great doesn't mean you don't have it. You could have it. You would always pass it along. So, it is a little troubling to see. And I'm going to bet that, a portion of that population is probably been exposed to COVID and asymptomatic matter and never realized it. And as I said last time with you, I get it. I mean, you're putting your livelihood, health, and we have this really unusual decision problem. We're trying to decide between your livelihood and how you build your life to make your work every day versus the distinct possibility of you dying or giving it to a family member or a friend and have them potentially become very ill, dying. And then also put the stress on the healthcare system that puts your first responders at risk, as well as the people that are doing essential services like the grocery stores, the pharmacies, any number of places you have to go, to Home Depot, and the phone is slipping again. The Home Depot, getting your supplies. I mean, if you're contagious, you would put everyone else that could be in danger of dying. And 57% of all deaths have been in nursing homes and high immune compromised people, but we've heard stories of people in their 30s also passing away.
That's right. Yeah.
It is very serious. I do believe the vast majority of the population is taking it very seriously. I do think some people think they're immune or better than this. And I know it's very hard for everyone right now. And the federal government's unemployment expansion program is to help that. The payroll protection program is to try to help alleviate some of those stress levels. It's not a permanent solution. None of us will say it's a permanent solution.
Yeah.
But we have a social safety net that was created, during the Great Depression and also in the 70s in response to the Great Depression. We didn't have the social safety net, and the Federal Reserve Bank buying debt everywhere to keep the markets from rapid descent, and it will be much, much worse. So, people always rally against these programs. Well, we're going to look at 14 to 20% of your population and your friends and neighbors, and my friends and neighbors who are going to be on some form of government assistance that was created as a response to the Great Depression, response to the Great Recessions in the past. So it's holding us up long enough to work to the next stages. We try to get past this part of the plateau, the governor said.
Is the unemployment starting to catch up with the backlog? Do you know?
Yeah, we had a talk with Secretary Acosta last week. We have well into 1,000 contractors working the phones and doing confirmations for unemployment. When we put in the gig workers, the temporary workers, the people who don't qualify for unemployment because they never paid into the system, it's over 800,000 people.
Wow.
I fully expect that we're probably going to definitely reach 1/6 or 1/7, depending on how you count the state census, of the population on unemployment benefits, and a good portion that we also qualify for healthcare assistance as well as food assistance and other types of assistance programs.
Mm-hmm.
And all the programs created during Great Depression, programs created in the 70s are now being fully implemented. And these also programs help us float the economy to some extent, because obviously you can pay the bills, you can buy your groceries, you can buy essential goods, you can still help keep the commercial economy moving at some level. So yeah, I mean, it's real, it's tough, and people are going to start feeling it more as we go along.
Let's talk a little bit about the fact that this is now May, and it's Asian American Pacific Islander Month, Tacky.
Yes, it's kind of like my month.
Well, happy May to you.
Happy May. Happy is also it's May Day, isn't it? It's 5/5.
May 1st is May Day, actually. Today is Cinco de Mayo. Yeah.
Oh, okay, Cinco de Mayo today. So, so yeah, it's Asian American Pacific Islander Month. Massachusetts has it as an official designation of May. I was able to pass that into law a few years back, and we're supposed to get a resolution from the governor every May recognizing the month, which, as understandable, we're probably not going to get a resolution this year. There's other priorities.
Yeah.
And it is. I mean, we're very understanding. I mean, we get it. And all the events for this month would be dinner or celebration or events happening at schools have all been canceled.
Yeah.
And it's kind of sad because this disease has interrupted a lot of our lives, but it's going to now interrupt the Heritage Month, recognizing the accomplished Asian Americans over the couple of centuries at this point of different Asian groups being in the United States and the things we've contributed over the course of history. So WGBH last night did a Zoominar doing some question and answers and showing yet another documentary. There's a lot more documentaries than people realize. Yep. But this is a great documentary documenting several different Asian ethnic groups and how they got here, and talk about things like the Dreamers Act that was introduced in the year 2000. And interesting enough, the Dreamers Act has been around. I didn't realize this. Has been around since 2000, and it was filed on behalf of a Korean woman a student who was brought here by the country illegally by her parents, and was in college and becoming a productive citizen, and they were trying to get citizenship for these children who did anything wrong. I mean, they didn't know. We were at age 2. It's not like someone told you.
Right.
And you rely on your parents to tell you what's going on. So it was pretty fascinating. You also talk about how people from South Asia, Indians, and the challenges associated coming here and overcoming racial stereotypes of a different type. And the perception to all peddlers, perception to all the poor people who are peddling things all the time, and how they adapted to American life associated with a profession that had been stereotyped into. And their affiliation with Black and Hispanic communities because of the color of their skin, because they're often mistaken as Black or Hispanic, darker complexions. And also Chinese immigrants coming in on Angel Island in San Francisco. I actually visited Angel Island when I was in college. And we do go to San Francisco, you should visit it. People call it the entry point of the East, of the West via the East.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's actually more of a detention center than Ellis Island. And people perceive Ellis Island as a process system of Europeans. They change your last name, so it's easy to spell.
Right.
Staying true. Ellis Island is actually a detention center for Chinese. So even if you were a U.S. citizen, you were detained. And it's one of the few ethnic groups who would actually revoke your citizenship, nationalization, which is actually in the Constitution very challenging. It's supposed to be high treason to be proven that, but at the time their civil rights weren't exactly real.
Yeah.
Back in the half of the 20th century. So go to WGBH. I'm sorry, not WGBH. Channel 2. It is GBH, right?
It is. Yep.
Yeah, WGBH's website. They will have a video available for you to watch. It's about 45 minutes to an hour.
Oh, okay.
Part of AAPI month. If you like, please watch that documentary and get a sense of the larger view of different Asian ethnic groups and the challenges associated with this. We have a meeting with the the Asian American Caucus for the National Conference of State Legislators this month to talk about COVID-19 hate crimes, which is on the rise around the country. We discussed that. We have a meeting with the Asian American Commission coming up to talk about the U.S. Census and anything we do regarding Asian American Pacific Island of the month. We are talking to some national and state groups about if there's anything we can do, even if it's virtual or via Facebook, to just bring some awareness to it. There's actually a great Facebook of Asian Americans in the military. It's not an uncommon video they've done, but it's actually remarkably done. Look at the vast diversity of people in the military of Asian American descent or immigrants that are here in the military. It's quite remarkable to look at.
Very good. So there's some resources for folks to explore. That's good.
Absolutely. And at QETV, if you guys were still in studio, you could probably replay some old festivals and whatnot.
Sure.
We've done in Quincy. Unfortunately, we're kind of denied that because no one can actually pull up the old video.
Right. At the moment, at least. Maybe in the future. Hopefully the near future. There actually, there is, as you know, the reopening advisory board at the state level now. So, there is at least thought of starting to ramp things up again. Are you involved with that at all?
No, I'm not directly involved. The governor put his task force together on his own, representing a relatively broad sector of the industries. It doesn't represent all sectors. If it gets too big, it gets unwieldy very fast. Obviously, we can't meet in person. Everything's done virtually, or you're going to be standing, far apart from each other in some kind of room. So logistically, it's understandable. You don't want a massive size group. The state is accepting comments from the public on www.mass.gov, mass.gov, and then you see on the front of the page a big banner that says COVID-19, and they kind of work it through the resources to the link for comments. Obviously, legislators can submit comments. Many of my colleagues are. My committee is looking to various folks regarding suggestions, recommendations of how things should be done. We're engaging those conversations. Now, the expectation is a phased opening. I think they're trying to figure out which is the least risk component to it. But even then, that may not help all people and businesses. And I'm not trying to put water on some hope here, but the reality is that if you're running a certain type of business, it requires a certain volume of people to come through as part of your business. And now you have a reduction of people because of social distancing, or you have to reduce the number of tables in your restaurant, or you have to change the volume, or you have to do more pickup. There might be more costs associated with it. So, we put up face shields. I know you watch overseas, but put face shields up between tables.
Yeah.
Plastic barriers. That's also an additional cost. And the health inspectors have to figure out how to make this work. It's not as easy, I think, that people give credit for. Watching the news, people just open up. I don't think it's that simple anywhere.
Right.
And of course, there's also the consumer confidence issue, as
Yeah.
well as consumers got to be comfortable going in. I mean, as I said at the onset, there's an asymptomatic disease. Wearing a mask provides protection, but doesn't guarantee protection. We make it very clear it is helpful. It's not creates a shield of immunity for you.
Right.
So there's that degree of consumer confidence, and
Yeah. And employees have to feel comfortable going back to work too.
Yeah, I was getting to that too. Yeah, you're right. You got to go back to work. You got to be comfortable. The workplace is safe. We've heard many workplaces now with COVID-19 where the store didn't do proper protocols, or there was a failure of protocol somewhere along the way. And
right, the Quincy Walmart just recently. Yeah.
Yeah, there was sadly one death at Quincy Walmart, and other people did, and probably many more. The Walmart in Worcester has already had it. Many supermarket employees, grocery store employees have been affected statewide. So, it's real, and it's close to home, and it's people you look at every single day when you go to someplace else that person across you has been high exposure level and is still out there trying to ensure that our essential services are getting done. So I think it's people need to start thinking about what the best guidelines are and what's best for you. And this is, like I said, at the beginning of the onset of the program with those protests, and trying to figure out how to pay your bills and get your life moving forward again in the workplace, protecting yourself and your workers and your own family. Creating consumer confidence and protecting the consumers, because none of us want to find out that we're the ones that caused someone to be gravely ill.
Right.
None of us want to be the one to hear that we may be the cause of someone's grandmother or parent's death. And I think the majority of us would have a strong conscience about these things.
Do you know, Techie, how, like for instance, in Wuhan, China, how they're dealing with reopening? How is that process happening? Is it similar, like a phased-in approach?
It's very much a phased-in approach. So the People's Republic of China, for people who don't know, has a government-controlled economy. It's a highly regulated economy. So they always say they're a capitalist economy, even though it's a communist system. And communism is not an economic model. People who study politics know it's more than economic model. It's a philosophical way of life that has an economic component to it. It's not like capitalism, where you can have democracies and capitalism. They're two separate things. So they run a very highly regulated economy. It's a high surveillance state. It's very much the state comes first mentality in terms of the way they teach people. And they are doing a very phased opening. It isn't just open the stores and they go off right away.
Yeah.
So they started letting people out of the homes and open some businesses with restrictions on a number of people there and new health and welfare safeguards in place. And it's a country that has travel documents inside your own country. So they now have apps on your phone to indicate whether you're COVID positive or not. And they can track your movements through the public transit system, as well as airplanes, as well as through your phone apps. If you have WeChat on your phone, that's how they're figuring out where you are in China. They can track your financial records, and because they encourage electronic transactions all the time through your phone.
Sure.
So they're doing their own policing at a very high level. And implementing thermal scanners everywhere to get body temperature. But like I said, it's an asymptomatic disease.
Right.
So you will not have a fever. This changes the game. So right now there's more travel in and out of the city in a very phased manner, very controlled manner. And there've been reported cases in Beijing of people returning to China. the mandatory 14-day quarantine. A lot of countries in Asia require 14-day quarantines now, and some countries are restricting greatly travel into their countries from everywhere in the world.
Hmm.
So it's very slow, but people are happy to be out for obvious reasons, as we are experiencing now.
Yeah.
But it's a country that's probably ready to lock down everything again. I mean, lockdown. It's not like a lockdown like we have here. I mean, lockdown like they have police on the streets. They're going to put you in jail if you're out seen outside lockdown.
Right.
So it's martial law. It's like they call it. Let's call it what it is. Don't call it lockdown. It's called martial law.
Sure.
But they were, it's ready to go back under to that status if they find out there's a massive second spike coming in. Again, given the asymptomatic thing, I've said it like 4 times now, but given the asymptomatic nature, that is a legitimate concern.
Yeah, even from our own CDC, we've heard good possibility of a second wave in the fall, along with the flu season, which could be even more devastating than it is this time around.
It could hit in July. So warm weather countries continue to have a rise and spike in the COVID-19. One of the things that's challenging about these other countries is whether or not they have sufficient capacity in testing. And as we've experienced ourselves, getting testing kits and having laboratories ready to go that meet FDA requirements, it took some time. And we are in a fortunately high testing area. We have so many labs here that they can do the work. So the numbers you see overseas may not be completely accurate because of the lack of testing in healthcare. South America is a huge area now. We've seen in news in places like Guatemala and Venezuela, and Ecuador, anywhere in Central America. Brazil is vastly underreported, and the government response has been non-existent. If you want to talk about a government that has done nothing and allowed business as usual, that's Brazil.
Wow.
The testing is low, comparatively speaking. You don't have the same healthcare system we do. Nor do they have our enormous ability to just churn out thousands and thousands of tests a day.
Yeah.
And come into the labs. So, those are warm weather places. So I wouldn't be surprised at a second spike coming in July. And depending on how other states reopen, whether or not there's a spike in those states, we want to find ourselves in a situation like China where the government limits your movements, at the individual level.
Right.
Yeah, and under the Commerce Clause of the United States, freedom of movement is a right of Americans. We are the right to go from one state to another state, right to go one community to another community. It's part of the Commerce Clause right. So, obviously, if the president exercises emergency powers, he can temporarily suspend some rights in a short period of time to address a national emergency. I don't know if the federal government is going to do that. I have no idea what's going on, but obviously we don't want to find ourselves in that state. We don't want to find ourselves implementing martial law. We are still under the philosophy of personal responsibility.
Right.
And everyone should be responsible and smart about themselves, their family members, and people they care.
What are you hearing, Taki, about at the State House? It's slowly getting back to business as usual there.
Yeah, we're going to attempt a formal session tomorrow, Wednesday. We passed emergency rules last week. One of the reasons I couldn't come on the show last week is we had been scheduling virtual formal sessions in anticipation of passage of rules due to some disagreements among some of the members in the chamber. Which received the Republicans and the Speaker's office, we come down to it, both leadership and the Speaker, on trying to work out a deal. They were to come to some compromise over the weekend on making this work. So if you want to watch us tomorrow, we're hopefully going to click on at 1 o'clock at malegislature.gov, malegislature.gov. You can just Google Mass Legislature. It will just come up. And hopefully the video feed is working. We've had some incidents in the past regarding some of the public hearings. And we're going to be phoning in our debate. There are a minimum number of people via social distancing in the chamber. And we've set up a telephone protocol directly into the chamber for the members. So this is our test run. And the bill we're going to do tomorrow regards short-term borrowing. Okay. So most people don't realize that the state isn't have this giant bank account where all your tax money shows up. Majority of our tax money shows up on April 15th.
Right.
Obviously, it's tax day. It's
Yep.
pretty straightforward. So we get corporate taxes, sales taxes, fees, penalties, and so forth as we go through the whole year. And part of our budgeting is to draw down from those smaller amounts every month. And then we do short-term borrowing. The interest rates are almost irrelevant. They're so low. So we rotate money during the course of the year to ensure we can pay our bills and short-term borrowing. So it's not actually deficit spending because we're going to repay those bonds in like a month. So as one expires, we pay the one back because we just keep rotating money, and then we hit April 15th, we can fully pay off other bonds on a short term. So given the fact we're July 15th with tax collection, our fiscal year ends June 30th.
Mm-hmm.
So we're not getting our fiscal year 20 money until fiscal year 21. So people think, oh, that's not a big deal. But if you run a business, you know this is a big deal.
Yeah.
Because you cannot use the fiscal year you collect your money is the year you're supposed to use your money. You're not supposed to pay last year's bills using money you collect this year.
Right.
Accounting nightmare. So we're going to have to also do short-term bonds more this fiscal cycle and go into this fiscal cycle and allow us to use the July 15th money that we collect in fiscal year 21 to pay for the short-term bonds in fiscal year 20 to get us to July 15th.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying to make this not convoluted.
I don't understand. Yeah.
I'm trying to keep this very simple.
You're taking future money to pay present bills, basically.
That's exactly it. And we're paying present bills or short-term bonds. Think of it as a line of credit. We're paying our current bills on a line of credit. The line of credit's going to come due. The banks all know July 15th is going to be our tax collection day, so they're not going to have a problem giving us a line of credit.
Right.
It's just that we have to authorize allowing us to pay. You're right, pay today, tomorrow's money, and also allowing us to short-term bond the last month of June into the month of July to pay June, because normally we'd have all the money in April, and then we wouldn't have to do short-term bonds in June.
Yep.
Because the money is actually there.
Right.
And, we all agree to give all taxpayers ability more time to file the taxes. But there is a consequence at our end of doing that, and this is part of the logistical nightmare we're facing.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. Depending on how the debate goes tomorrow, there's a virtual debate, and we believe we meet the constitutional requirements. We're going to do more of these. And the state budget is talking about the fact that we're going to have to change the rules again. Under the House rules, we're supposed to provide a budget to the Senate by, I think, the second Wednesday of May. Mm-hmm. Which is not going to happen.
Right.
So they're discussing about changing the rules to move the House budget to be in the Senate by July 1st. That's the current conversation. And how we would manage a larger debate where we have 1,200 amendments. And that would take probably multiple days of virtual sessions and obviously voting in our votes, doing confirmation methods that confirm that is who we are, and so forth. So, we have been assigned a what we call a teller. The division flow leaders have more tellers now. They're going to phone us in on these votes. So we better hope the telecom industry is working well.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's going to be somewhat of a challenge.
Yes.
So these are logistical things we're trying to figure out.
Yeah. Speaking of voting, of course, state elections are coming up. September 1st, I think, is the primary. And I believe next week is the deadline to have signatures submitted. Is that right? May 12th, I think.
No, actually, it's today.
Oh, it's today.
Yes.
Okay.
If you want to run for state office as a party candidate for Democrat Republicans, today is May 5th, and your papers has to be in the city or town clerk's office today. So by the time people listen to this recording, it's already over.
It's over. Okay.
We have the June 5th, if you have your certified signatures, to be due in the clerk's office. I'm sorry, by the Secretary of State's office by June 5th in Boston or Springfield. The Supreme Court had ruled, given the state of emergency, they're suspending the current law. The law is actually very straightforward. It isn't ambiguous, so I kind of question this decision making. But the court ruled, Supreme Court ruled that you cut the number of signatures in half So to run for Congress goes from 2,000 to 1,000. U.S. Senate from 10,000 to 5,000. State senator goes to 150 from 300, and my seat goes from 150 to 75.
Okay.
And because the current environment makes it very challenging to get signatures, and they're allowing something new, which is also electronic signatures.
Oh, okay.
So the ability to get people to somehow sign by signature, not a print, a signature somehow onto a nomination paper, scan it in, and submit it electronically to the clerk's offices. So I'm not entirely clear how that would work exactly, where you get people to sign on the paper and then scan and send it in, or do you have people send you electronic signatures? They can put it on the paper. It's a little bit more nuanced than I think we realize.
Yeah.
And we're now going to be talking about doing that for ballot questions.
Oh, okay.
Ballot questions come in this fall. The next round of ballot question signatures have begun, and signatures have to get. So Secretary of Government has opened up to electronic signatures for that as well, following the court's advice for candidates. So elections are going to happen. And I know I've been getting a lot of emails and phone calls, as well as advocacy groups looking for a mail-in ballot elections.
Yes. As a matter of fact, the city council is supporting such a measure in Quincy.
Well, yeah, because they're not on the ballot this year. I love
Right.
it when, let's be honest about it, people, when you're not on the ballot, it's easy to advocate for stuff that doesn't affect you this time. Hey, I'm just calling how I see it. I'm sure I'm not the only one thinking this when they listen to this. There's a proposal to actually have every household get a ballot. When you register to vote, they just send you ballots. If they think there's, you have, it says you have 5 people in your household that's registered to vote, they send you 5 ballots. On the good faith that you will be able to fill it out on your own without any fraudulent components. And those of us who watch absentee ballots in the past have known there's been absentee ballot fraud. It's not wide scale. It's a very small number. And believe it or not, it's not illegal immigrants doing it. It is other politicians and scrupulous people at the local level trying to get their candidate elected. Right? So let's kill that myth right away. It's not like a whole bunch of undocumented people running around collecting these ballots. It's generally people involved in politics that want to get their person elected through any means possible. Jack Smith is the last one you can think of. The former representative from Everett was caught on absentee ballot fraud by the federal government. They knew about it for a bit, and then they proceeded to do a sting and caught him red-handed. Absentee ballots. Now, absentee ballots is fairly straightforward. If you're not in the city that day, you are not available because of illness, or not available because of essential work. You cannot get out of work to do this. You can file an absentee ballot form. You send a form in, they send you back your ballot, you fill the ballot, you sign your ballot, you mail it back. The ballots have to be stamped by the day of the election, which would be opened to the clerk's office after the election day, or during election day, and scanned into the machines. Which is why if there's a high absentee ballot rate and it's a very close race, you have to kind of wait it out a little longer to fill out the absentee ballots to be confirmed.
Right.
And because of the military, they actually have a time period after the election day to collect those ballots too and put them into the count. That's quite the final count you see on the day after the election changes upward slightly in like a week's time. So there is discussion about that. Now, I want to point out, if people have time, once again, get on the internet to learn something different. On South Korea. South Korea managed a national election in person, not mail-in, at the end of the COVID crisis, or the tail end of the COVID crisis. They're on the other end of the curve, successfully. And they had the highest turnout ever in a national election in Korea.
Wow.
And it's a parliamentary system with a president, and the president only gets one term for 5 years. That's it. But the parliament's up every 4 years. So the president's party took a majority seats because of the way they responded to the COVID crisis. Overwhelming majority. If you know parliamentary politics, getting a big majority is very hard. I mean, the Conservative Tory party got it in Britain this past winter. Very challenging to do. So they don't need to form a coalition government. So if, this can be done. So people are saying, oh, it can't be done, it can't be done. Of course it can be done. Someone else has done it at a national scale, 50 million people, population, and highest turnout they've ever had. And there's also other logistics because they were thinking about it too. I mean, they had COVID-ready locations for people who were tested positive to be able to come and vote.
Okay.
Distancing, they had sanitizing. They actually used thumbprint identification as part of checking you in. They got rid of that. They went back to showing identification cards or just match you up against the voter list, like we match people against the voter list, or, they just changed how they did things.
Yep.
And it worked out fine in their case. Because, we really need to think outside the box. I strongly advise the city council and local officials to sit and think about this. That if a country could figure this out on a national election, and we're just a city, we should be able to figure this out too. And we got to keep in mind, if you do all mail-in ballots, and let's say the city turns in on primary day 6,000 ballots, well, they're going to flood the clerk's office at once. They have to be sorted, and then they have to be scanned into the machines, and they have to be double-checked. If you visit the city clerk's office, they would have to staff up in a different level to accept those ballots.
Right.
And then if you're upset, on the result, you can challenge ballots. Now, how are we going to do a recount? I've done a recount. You're in a room together, visually looking at ballots to figure out who that ballot's voted for. I've done a recount. It's grueling, and you're in tight quarters, and only authorized personnel can touch the ballot. A ballot observer cannot touch it. I could not touch one ballot. I had to stand over the shoulder with a ballot counter that's authorized by the town. This was in case of handover.
Right.
And visually see it. So forget social distancing and recount. So I understand people's desire to make sure that people would vote. The city clerk's office has always done early voting at the assisted living facilities.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a challenge, right?
Yeah.
As you know, the death count is very high in assisted living facilities.
Yeah.
Senior housing. Can we, we have O'Brien Towers in my district. That is a polling place. Probably would think that's not going to be a polling place come to September.
Right.
Can the city clerk, do 10 days out, do the senior housing in advance of the election? Can we do group homes? Can we do other mechanisms as part of the early voting law that we put into place to create some ideas on that front? And the city budget is being debated, I think, right about now.
Yeah, well, soon. The mayor wasn't able to present last night, but soon, yeah.
Soon. So, they really should have some discussions about this. We're obviously waiting for federal assistance money, more of it directed to COVID-19 at the governmental level to help us pay for costs.
Right.
And there's discussion about whether or not the federal government's going to have to help bail out all the states. As I talked about a couple shows ago, the vast majority of states, actually not vast, all the states are looking at double-digit tax revenue losses.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's quite real. So I understand, there's all these advocates talking about this stuff, but let's walk through the whole thing about how to run an election and look at other places that have actually successfully done this, and really have a conversation about what needs to be done. And I obviously advocate for our Congress to get more money down to the states to help us out this fiscal year, next fiscal year,
Mm-hmm.
so we can have money available to help cities and towns to implement a better method. If the idea is to extend early voting to allow cities and town clerks to staff up to go help people with assisted living or group homes or senior communities to get out to vote first, then let's do that first, and move the polling places out of schools, or maybe we should close school for the day.
Right.
Each one knows my polling place. Maybe the city should talk about closing school for a day.
Okay.
No. The first instinct is going to let's do mail-in ballots. Okay. Have you explored your other options?
Mm-hmm.
Of course not. I'm going to tell you right now.
Is your name on the ballot in the fall, Zachy?
Guess what? I am.
Okay.
I am on the ballot. I got my signature papers before the COVID-19 shutdown. They were in the secretary's office. I have extra signatures sitting in the city clerk's office, which I will collect. So I did not need to get 75. I got the requirement under the law. So I was taught not to waste time on signatures. As soon as I got them, they were getting signed right away.
Very good. TechieChan.com, right? Your website?
No, .org.
Oh, .org. My apologies.
.com was my old campaign site. We moved to a different campaign site.
Gotcha.
which the staff is not allowed to touch in the state law.
Right.
So we have tacticnet.org as my official work-related site. It's much more expansive and more interesting than my campaign site, because the campaign site is not going to have nearly the same amount of material. It's a campaign site. It's pretty dry.
Yep. Gotcha.
But the work-related materials over there, the state government does not give me a customizable website. I'm not the federal government.
Right.
With the congressional folks, they have these federal websites that are all different and different templates. Mine is not. I have to come up with my own separately paid for website that Massachusetts will give me.
Gotcha.
Yeah, different challenges that the people don't realize. Obviously, check my Facebook site. We're trying to post increasingly. We're trying to post more graphic, like pictures with words, as opposed to just hitting you with like a paragraph or 2 paragraphs worth of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Simple to visualize, easy to share, easy to download if you want to email it to people. Information from the state, information from the federal government, information from the city. A lot of you guys have seen this on the news already.
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to keep it as simple as possible. So feel free to scroll through, as well as the links to the governor's press conferences, which will provide summaries for, so you don't have to get inundated information, just some quick bullet points of key areas that make you interested in what the governor said. So obviously, you can call us at the office at 617-722-2014, 617-722-2014. Pick up a staff member. They'll pick up the calls during the course of the day, and we'll try to get back to you. I've been told by my staff that the cell phone issue has been challenging because no one has landlines anymore.
Right.
And constituents and people calling them back on their cell phones at all hours of the day, and they didn't sign up to work after work. I signed up to work after work.
Gotcha.
So we are using Google numbers. If people are watching and they've called the office and get a call back, I know you don't always want to pick a number you don't recognize, but we have moved over to Google numbers as well to give some privacy to the staff. They're not public figures. I'm a public figure.
Right. Yep. Very good. Great to see you and chat with you. And to you and your family, be well, Tacky.
Please be well. Be safe, everyone. And we'll probably see you, or virtually talk to you probably in another 5 to 7 days.
Sounds good. Look forward to it. Take care.
Take care.
Okay. Bye-bye.